Welcome to Love Story with Lisa, where I share romantic audio stories. Today, I'll tell you a new love story. He called me false, broke our engagement to marry another, turned me into the capital's laughingstock. Did he think I needed him? Synopsis. For the late Grand Empress Dowager Helena, I observed 3 full years of mourning. And yet, the 9th Prince, Julian Ravenscroft, sought to annul our engagement and wed another. Everyone praised me for my beauty and decorum, for my gentle and dignified nature. Yet he claimed he despised my falsehood, my unchanging obedience, and in doing so made me the laughingstock of the entire capital. When my heart had turned to ashes, I turned away and married the Yen Prince, Damian Blackwood, the man who guarded the northern frontier. The 9th Prince chased me all the way to the northern borders. Weeping and begging for my return, at that moment, I was riding beside my husband. He said, "My princess consort can manage the household and ride horses with equal grace. Whatever she wishes to do, I shall indulge her completely. I am the daughter of Marquis Edmund Ashford, the loyal and valiant Marquis. My parents passed away when I was young. From childhood, I was raised within the palace under the care of Grand Empress Dowager Helena. She personally instructed me, teaching me with patience and devotion. When I was 10 years old, she selected my future husband for me, the 9th Prince, Julian Ravenscroft. From that day forward, I knew that one day I would become a prince's consort. So I was always modest, diligent, gentle. I learned everything a proper matron of a noble household should know: accounting, embroidery, household management. I became skilled in the kitchen as well. Every effort I made was to be worthy of that handsome and talented 9th Prince. During the 3 years I remained at the Imperial Mausoleum, observing mourning in vegetarian devotion and chanting sutras, the 9th Prince grew close to Isabella Clarke, the youngest daughter of the Prime Minister's household. She was 3 years younger than I, lovely in appearance, lively in temperament. She captivated him so completely that he forgot the way home. When I returned to the palace, I found myself transformed into the capital's favorite joke. The Empress Dowager who had loved me was gone. The matter of the 9th Prince annulling our engagement had already become an open secret. The moment I stepped through the palace gates, I felt like a blazing fire in midsummer, or a woven fan in the depths of winter, utterly unnecessary. I went to Ningyi Palace to gather my clothes and silver. Roa-May, the palace maid who had served me for years, was indignant on my behalf. Tears streamed down her face. "Princess, you devoted yourself so wholeheartedly to the royal family. Yet the 9th Prince treats you with such heartlessness. While you were mourning at the mausoleum, he was out there flirting and chasing after other women." My heart, long chilled to the bone, could grow no colder. I shook my head helplessly. The 9th Prince has likely realized something. Among the princes, he is not the most outstanding. Only the Prime Minister can truly support him. He must think further ahead. He is not like me. He does not wish to live an ordinary life. I cannot help him. I can only wish him well. Roa-May looked at me. "Princess, do you truly mean that?" A sharp pain pierced my chest. Of course I did not mean it. Those words were merely something to tell myself, self-deception to soothe my pride. I am no saint. How could I not resent him? On my way to the Emperor's Hall of Mental Cultivation, I happened to encounter the 9th Prince. He wore a dark black robe embroidered with golden clouds. Handsome and upright, he appeared even more imposing than in my memories. He remained mounted on horseback. Standing before him, I felt small and awkward. I bowed in salute and stepped aside to give way. He seemed surprised. According to the rumors, should I not be filled with grief and indignation? Why did my face show not the slightest trace of bitterness? he spoke first. Have you seen my mother? Your Highness, I returned to the palace yesterday and have already paid my respects to His Majesty Emperor Alaric and to Consort Margaret. And what did she say? Marriage within the imperial family was nothing but an exchange of interests. Consort Margaret had expressed her apologies in gentle words, hoping I would understand the greater good and gracefully step aside for the 9th prince. I tilted my head slightly, looking at him, waiting to hear how he would justify his own absurdity. Yet in the end, shame flickered across his face. He shook his head, nothing. He turned to leave. At that very moment, another rider approached. On horseback sat a young woman clad in white riding attire. The outfit did nothing to diminish her delicate and radiant beauty, a woman riding freely within the palace grounds, so unrestrained. She must be the one who held Julian Ravenscroft's heart. Isabella Clarke raised an eyebrow at me. Your Highness, and who is this? The 9th prince's expression was unreadable. She is the only daughter of the loyal and valiant Marquis, Serena Ashford. Isabella gave a look of sudden understanding. Oh, the one who has been engaged to your Highness since childhood? The one you said was too obedient, too unchanging. Even pretending to be a noble lady of impeccable virtue? I looked toward the 9th prince. A flicker of unease crossed his eyes. And yet, I found myself laughing softly. So your Highness has always praised me in such a manner? He lowered his head. There was not the slightest trace of guilt toward me. Nor did he reproach Isabella for her insult. It seemed that in the past, I must have been blind. How else could I have believed him to be a refined and incomparable gentleman? I had never imagined that all my efforts to become a good wife, in his eyes, were merely excessive obedience. An act. A performance. If your Highness disliked me from the beginning, I said calmly, you should have spoken sooner. Why allow me to waste these years? The 9th prince parted his lips. With difficulty, he forced out 2 words, that I'm sorry. I bowed with perfect courtesy. Then I thank your Highness for not marrying me. And I walked away. Behind me, Isabella's voice continued to chatter without end. Just an orphan, yet you dare call yourself a noble young lady? Whatever glory you have belongs to your ancestors. What does any of it have to do with you? Do you truly think you can rely on that merit forever? I turned back to look at the 2 of them, your Highness and Miss Clarke. What a perfectly matched pair. Nam Jai, what did you just say? Emperor Alaric lifted his head from the stack of memorials before him, his expression filled with disbelief as he looked at me. It was said that after his campaign in the northern deserts, the Yen prince had remained stationed at the frontier and had even been granted land there. All the invitation cards from noble families that His Majesty had ordered to be delivered to him had been rejected without exception. The aristocratic daughters of the capital trembled in fear, terrified that they might be chosen by the Yen prince and forced to endure hardship in that desolate, impoverished land. Thus, his marriage had become a constant worry in the emperor's heart. I lowered myself to the floor and kowtowed, speaking each word clearly and firmly. Nam Jai is willing to marry His Highness the Yen Prince. I beg your Majesty to grant this marriage and decide on Nam Jai's behalf. The emperor's expression was unreadable, neither joy nor anger discernible. Marriage is a matter of great importance. It must not be decided in haste. I shook my head. Though the 9th prince has humiliated me, I am not acting out of anger or impulse. I have heard that the noble ladies of the capital all fear marrying the Yen prince. But I have known His Highness since childhood and do not fear him. At last, the emperor agreed. Perhaps he had been troubled by 2 matters all along. First, the Yen prince's unresolved marriage. Second, how to arrange my future without gaining a reputation for mistreating the descendant of a loyal minister. Since this marriage was of my own request, granting it would fulfill my wish. 1 arrow, 2 targets, and so, I set out for the northern frontier. The 9th prince appeared among the crowd seeing me off, separated by the thin curtain of my carriage. He asked, "Serena Ashford, are you truly wagering your lifelong happiness just to spite me? Is it worth it?" A faint, cold smile touched my lips. "Does your highness know how many noble ladies' invitations the Yen prince has rejected, yet he did not refuse me?" He did not answer. The Yen prince is brave and skilled in battle. He was the first prince of our dynasty to be granted a princely title. A fine bird chooses the right tree to nest in. Surely the 9th prince understands this principle. If, in the future, anyone were to claim that Serena Ashford acted out of spite, I would ask the 9th prince to clarify on my behalf. I lifted the curtain slightly, creating a narrow gap. "Your Highness, when I was young and confined by the Empress Dowager for making mistakes, you left food outside my door. Fearing I might be bullied, you asked a master to teach me martial arts for self-defense. I was deeply moved by your protection. I believed you were someone to whom I could entrust my entire life. To be worthy of you, I followed every rule and dared not make the slightest misstep. But I was never the kind of person you claimed to despise. You made me understand something. A woman should be herself. She should not diminish herself for the sake of another." As I spoke, the 9th prince's expression turned strange. His eyes widened in undisguised astonishment. I let out a bitter laugh and lowered the curtain. This face, I no longer wished to see it again in this lifetime. It took 3 months to reach the borders of the Northern Territory. The residence of the Yen prince lay in Bafang Prefecture, though he himself was usually stationed at the Northern Grand Camp. Though called a princely estate, its scale was far inferior to the grand mansions of high officials in the capital. It was merely a somewhat spacious compound. Even the Yen prince's bedchamber was arranged with stark simplicity. The frontier was harsh. Bafang was poor. The rumors were true. There were few people in the residence, only the necessary guards, an elderly steward surnamed Zhao, and a maid named Yun Jiao who attended to my daily needs. They treated me with utmost warmth and respect. Wherever we met, they bowed and addressed me reverently as princess consort. In the capital, Damian Blackwood's reputation was not a good one. They said that on the battlefield he killed with decisive ruthlessness. Off the battlefield, he was like a living Rakshasa, terrifying and ferocious. Though his title was Yen Prince, many secretly called him the Prince of Hell. That day before the Emperor, I had claimed to know him since childhood. In truth, my memories of him were scarce. I only remembered a stern, cold face. A man of few words. When I bowed to him, he merely grunted an and walked away. I had lied to the Emperor. My motives for coming here were not entirely pure. If I had not used marriage as an excuse, then as the sole daughter of Marquis Edmund Ashford, I would never have been allowed to leave the palace. The young noblemen of the capital all knew I was disliked by the 9th prince. Though I bore the title of princess, it was little more than an empty name. The Ashford family had only me remaining. My marriage could no longer benefit anyone. Choosing to wed the Yen prince had been a desperate gamble, yet unexpectedly he had agreed. That night, I summoned Yun Jiao and asked the reason. She smiled brightly. His Highness sent word that the princess consort has traveled a long way from the capital and instructed us to take excellent care of you. Steward Zhao and I would not dare neglect our duties. You are a golden branch and jade leaf. It is only natural that you would find it difficult adjusting to Bafang. If there is anything you lack, please tell us. the princely estate has been cold and empty for many years. At last, it has a mistress." Yun Jiao's eyes shone with joy. "When the princess consort bears several little heirs and princesses for His Highness, the residence will become even livelier." My face flushed red. "Did His Highness say anything else?" "No," Lydia shook her head. "The letters were received by Steward Graham. I don't know about the rest. As for when His Highness will return. In the past, he would sometimes come back only once or twice a year. Most of the time, he eats and sleeps alongside the army at the frontier camp. But now that the princess consort has arrived, perhaps His Highness will return more often. If the princess consort misses His Highness, you may write to him." As she spoke, she was already turning to fetch paper and brush. I quickly caught her sleeve and declined with a smile. "His Highness is toiling at the front lines. It would not be proper for me to disturb him. I shall simply wait in peace for the day he returns." Lydia assumed I was merely shy, being a new bride. In truth, it was because Damien Blackwood and I had not seen each other in many years. We were practically strangers now. Writing to him would be far too presumptuous. Steward Graham later brought me a large stack of books, his eyes crinkling with warmth and respect. "I heard that the princess consort enjoys reading and writing. This old servant has prepared some books and ink for your highness to pass the time." When I began sorting through them, I discovered that mixed among the volumes were several account ledgers, as well as detailed records of the northern frontier's local customs, harvest cycles, and seasonal conditions. For over a month, I pored over those books without pause. Before I knew it, I had become deeply fascinated by this land so distant from the capital. The northern frontier was dry and bitterly cold. Food was scarce. The mountains and rivers were barren. And yet the people were bold and straightforward in character. It was a vital trade route between East and West, where diverse customs and cultures converged. So many unfamiliar and intriguing sights. I would cradle a book from morning until dusk, reading until I drifted into sleep. In my dreams, I rode across vast grasslands and endless deserts, saw mountains dotted with sheep, and found hidden oases shimmering in the sand. When I returned the ledgers to Steward Graham, he flipped through them and raised his thumb in approval. "I have heard that the princess consort was taught accounting from a young age by a master within the palace. Indeed, the reputation is well deserved." I smiled. "Steward Graham, may I borrow a horse?" Lydia, standing nearby, immediately protested. "What would the princess consort need a horse for? You are of such noble status. What if you were to fall?" Steward Graham carefully stored the ledgers away, his eyes smiling. "As it happens, among the stables there is a fine golden steed of the highest quality. This old servant will have it brought out for you. But if the princess consort wishes to ride beyond the estate, a riding master must accompany you." I agreed happily. A short while later, Lydia entered my chambers muttering to herself. "I even said Steward Graham was getting old. How could our residents possibly have riding attire for a lady? And yet he somehow found one." On the tray in her hands lay a neatly folded set of bright red riding clothes. She lifted it up and compared it to my figure. "It looks as though it were tailored just for you." That day, dressed in fitted riding attire, I mounted the golden horse. Under the careful protection of the riding master, I rode through Bafeng and all the way to the border city. For the first time, I saw with my own eyes the Tharkan River and the Hulam Forest described in the books. I stood there for a long while, gazing toward the distant central plains. By September, the northern air already carried a chill. The northern wind brushed past my ears. I let out a long breath. let us return to the residence." The wind howled across the open land. The sky stretched vast and boundless. From this day forward, would no longer have anything to do with the flourishing imperial city, nor with that arrogant ninth prince, Julian Ravenscroft. The riding master said, "If the princess consort enjoys riding, the training grounds within the residence are also quite suitable. There is even a small bow there. The martial instructor crafted it for his child, but it has been left unused for some time. If the princess consort is interested, this servant can ask the instructor to teach you." I paused in surprise, then nodded, "Very well." That evening, Lydia ran in excitedly, "Princess consort. News from the military camp. His Highness led the troops to defeat the Jean tribe and captured 2 cities." Steward Graham followed closely behind her. "I told you not to disturb the princess consort while she is dining." Could this not wait until after the meal? Lydia's brows nearly flew off her face with excitement. "No, I couldn't hold it in. Our prince wins every battle, but usually the news of victory comes through the governor's office. This is the first time we have received a letter reporting victory directly, and it even bears His Highness's seal." I tilted my head toward the paper in Lydia's hand. Indeed, a bright red seal marked it clearly, it seemed. The prince would soon return. Lydia blinked at me, her round almond eyes gleaming mischievously. For several days, I practiced archery in the training grounds under the martial instructor's guidance. From the time my palms were scraped raw and my arms ached so badly I could scarcely lift a bow, to the moment I could raise a bow half my height and strike the bullseye, it took barely over a month. Lydia felt heartache when she saw the blisters and cuts on my palms. Yet when she saw me gallop across the grounds and strike the center of the target, she was so delighted she could barely speak. That night, as she applied ointment to my hands, she could not help but say, "I thought the princess consort was a delicate young lady. I never imagined that not only are you skilled in calculation and gifted in calligraphy, but you also have such talent in horseback riding and archery. Truly, you are a rare woman." When I was young, I secretly studied martial arts with a master in the palace for a time, I said lightly. "I even know this." I mimed the motion with my hands. Lydia's eyes widened. "Slingshot? I've never seen a golden branch and jade leaf noble lady play with a slingshot." Her reaction made me laugh. When I was young and living beside Grand Empress Dowager Helena, I always felt like an outsider, dependent on others, without a clan to support me. I endured not a little bullying, but once I learned to use a slingshot, I would send the palace children scattering in panic. From that day onward, no one dared to bully me again. Lydia listened to my childhood stories with great curiosity, constantly urging me to tell more details. I only mentioned a few things about learning martial arts. But this clever girl struck at the heart of it with a single sentence. Who was the princess consort's master? Could it be someone who did not wish for you to be bullied by the princes and princesses, and therefore secretly arranged for a teacher for you? Learning martial arts inside the palace without anyone discovering it was no easy thing, I said softly. It was merely a brief twist of fate between master and disciple. He spoke little and always wore a mask. Though I called him master, he never once responded to that title. It was I who indulged in wishful thinking, believing that aside from the man betrothed to me, Julian Ravenscroft, who else in this world would care about me so? I let out a quiet sigh. I once thought I understood everything. Yet the man I had mistaken so thoroughly claimed I was pretentious, putting on an act. It seems I was truly foolish. To have recognized the wrong person all along, that day. While I was riding in the training grounds, a woman clad in black suddenly galloped in. judging by the restrained yet helpless expressions of the guards and Steward Graham. She was clearly a frequent visitor to the Yen Prince's residence. She pointed her riding whip at me. "So you're the one His Majesty has bestowed in marriage to Damien Blackwood?" I slowed my horse. She spurred forward to chase after me. "May I ask who you are, miss?" "I am Victoria Langley, daughter of the governor. And I am the one His Majesty originally intended to marry to Damien Blackwood." "I see. And what business does Miss Langley have with me?" Arrogant fury flared at the corners of her brows. "Do you dare compete with me?" "In what?" "Archery on horseback. If you lose, you are not to marry Damien Blackwood." I laughed. "That is impossible. The imperial decree has already been issued. Refusing the marriage would be a crime of deceiving the sovereign. Even if I am the last remaining member of my family, I cannot wager my life so lightly. Then I also wish to marry Damien Blackwood. If I win," I nearly laughed aloud. I had yet to properly meet my husband, and already a rival in love had come charging to my doorstep. I tightened my grip on the reins and fixed my gaze ahead. "Very well. We shall compete. But the husband of the Ashford family shall never take concubines. Not even a prince. My master had once taught me horseback riding. But because my martial training in the capital had been secret, I was never allowed to ride freely there. After arriving in the northern frontier and training under the riding master's guidance, my horsemanship had improved rapidly. I was confident I would not lose to any woman. Victoria Langley and I circled the training grounds, loosing arrows as we rode. When counted, she had struck 9 bullseyes. So had I. But 2 of mine had been shot simultaneously, and both struck dead center. The martial instructor declared me the victor. Victoria accused me of cheating. I replied calmly, "Is it so difficult to admit that one is inferior?" I turned and walked out of the grounds. Suddenly, I heard the sharp whistle of wind behind me. I turned, and a powerful force yanked me backward. An arrow grazed past my hair and pierced straight through the wooden human-shaped target in the arena. Lydia screamed. Had that arrow struck a person, at the very least half a life would have been lost. I fell into an embrace scented faintly of pine and cypress. Before I could steady myself, a furious roar thundered above me. "Victoria Langley, you are truly bold. To cause trouble in my residence." I lifted my head, our eyes met. His gaze was cold, like distant mountains after a relentless storm. His brows were sharp as blades. He stared at Victoria Langley without sparing me even a glance. "Your Highness the Yen Prince," Victoria cried, "did you not say you would never agree to a forced marriage? Why have you changed your mind now? What are you to me?" He replied icily. "Must I explain myself to you?" Victoria snapped her riding whip in half and fled in tears. I watched her retreating figure and shook my head. She was merely a spoiled young lady who had yet to grow up. The Yen Prince's return to the residence was a major event. Before he and I could exchange more than a few words, he was surrounded by guards and Steward Graham. Back in my chamber, I bathed and changed into clean, simple clothing. When I stepped out from behind the screen, I saw him standing by the desk, reading the calligraphy I had written. The harsh northern winds had carved new lines into the once lean and distant man I remembered. He stood beneath the candlelight, half his face shrouded in shadow. His features were still sharp and gaunt, his jaw firm, his shoulders broad, the marks of long years endured in the military camp. Damien Blackwood set the paper down and looked at me. His gaze indifferent. "The northern frontier is not like the capital. Life here will be harsher. I do not find it harsh, I replied quietly. And even if it is, your Highness has endured it for many years already. I hear you have been learning horseback riding and archery. His tone carried no discernible emotion. In the capital, married women were not permitted to engage in such pursuits, unless they were like Isabella Clarke, cherished jewels in their parents' palms and indulged by their future husbands. I began without your Highness's permission. I ask that you do not blame me. He nodded slightly and did not pursue the matter. Rest early. Seeing him turn toward the door, I hurriedly called out, Your Highness, will you not stay and rest? All this time, I had been occupying his bedchamber. His hand paused on the door latch. I have only just returned. There are many matters to handle. Rest first. After he left, I went to the desk and read the lines he had been looking at. For a long time, I stood there in silence. The grievances of rivers and mountains, who can I entrust them to? In a loveless year, I pity myself, bearing sorrow, I dare not recall the past. The plum blossoms have withered. Yet spring returns once more, and at last, I understood. He must have misunderstood. I thought to myself that Damien Blackwood had lived in the northern frontier for many years. Perhaps it had been a long time since he tasted the cuisine of the capital. The next morning, I rose early and went to the kitchen to select ingredients. But the northern frontier was dry and short of water. Fresh vegetables were even more expensive than pork. In the end, I took a handful of dried mushrooms and cooked a pot of minced pork and mushroom porridge. Lydia came running in with a conflicted expression. Princess consort. His Highness has accepted an invitation from the governor's residence. He said he will not return for the meal. The governor's residence. Victoria Langley. I stood there, holding the ladle, momentarily stunned. Lydia hurried to comfort me. Princess consort, please do not take it to heart. Governor Richard Langley has been a close friend of His Highness for many years. When His Highness first earned his merits in the northern frontier, Miss Langley was still very young. This whole matter of status and seniority is complicated. It is only Miss Langley's own infatuation. Damien Blackwood was only 7 or 8 years older than Victoria Langley. Within the imperial clan, marriages between uncles and nieces were not uncommon. Lydia's words did little to soothe me. That night, I sat in my chamber until very late before I finally heard movement in the courtyard. Your Highness, would you like to rest in your chamber? No, to the study. Damien Blackwood's voice carried a trace of drunkenness. I hurriedly opened the door. Several pairs of eyes in the courtyard turned toward me. Damien Blackwood stood there, clearly intoxicated. His eyes and cheeks were slightly flushed. I stepped forward and supported his arm with both hands. Leave His Highness to me. The guards withdrew swiftly. Your Highness. Have I done something wrong? He lowered his head to look at me. Seeing that my expression was steady and that I did not avoid his gaze, the coldness in his eyes softened slightly. His breath, heavy with the scent of wine, brushed against my face. Back to the chamber, he said. He walked unsteadily, nearly placing his full weight on my shoulder, causing me to stagger. At last, we reached the bed. When he sat down, he inadvertently pulled me onto his lap. He wrapped his arms around me, and then noticed my reddened eyes. What is it? The bedchamber is clearly prepared, I said softly. Yet your Highness said you would rest in the study. If others were to find out, what would they think? Would it not be as though, he lowered his gaze to his sleeve. I was afraid of disturbing your rest. You are fond of cleanliness, and I reek of wine. Not only wine, I murmured. There is also the scent of rouge. He froze, Then the corner of his lips curved faintly. There are officials at the governor's residence whom I must win over. Only if they remember the Emperor's grace will the frontier remain stable. Tonight, there were indeed dancing girls offering wine, but it was merely for appearances. He studied me. Are you jealous? He was slightly drunk, nothing like the distant, cold man of yesterday. His chin rested lightly on my shoulder. When I finish handling these matters, I will spend time with you. Before long, I must return to the main camp. At the mention of his departure, my heart tightened abruptly. Your Highness. May I go with you? He leaned back slightly to look at me more clearly. The front lines are dangerous. What would a woman like you do there? I lowered my eyes, unsure how to explain that the days spent counting the stars, waiting for his return, were far more difficult than the 3 years I had spent mourning at the Imperial Mausoleum. He was too striking. Every gesture carried the calm strength of a man tempered by war. Victoria Langley's infatuation was nothing. I could guard against that. But if I let him fly free to the frontier like a kite unmoored, who knew how many romantic entanglements would follow? Once, I had regarded Julian Ravenscroft as my future husband and misplaced so many girlish affections upon him. Yet because I clung to the image of a proper noble lady, I was labeled false. Only now did I understand. Happiness is something one must seize with one's own hands. Damien Blackwood's gaze burned as he looked at me, as though waiting for my answer. I could not endure that look any longer. I refused to remain the woman who did not understand tenderness. With a faint smile, I whispered, I am afraid. I would miss you. I felt his body stiffen behind me. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he drew me gently into his arms, his voice low and hoarse, thick with restrained desire. I will go bathe. He stood up, then turned back to look at me. I do not know what I looked like at that moment. In any case, he smiled. He reached out and wrapped an arm around my waist. If you cannot bear to part, then come with me. Only in such moments of unguarded warmth did Damien Blackwood truly resemble the man of legend. In the lake water, stripped of the cold and solemn mask of the Yen Prince, he was no longer distant and restrained. He was fierce, untamed, and I was like a small boat drifting upon the waves, needing his strength to steady me. That night, we surrendered to one another without reserve. From the water to the bed, we tangled and clung, unwilling to part. Not until the first rooster crowed, when I trembled and begged for mercy, did he finally wrap me tightly in a quilt and hold me close to sleep. I must have slept for a full day and night. When I awoke, I saw Damien Blackwood standing by the table, ladling porridge into a bowl. The aroma reached me at once. He spoke quickly, almost awkwardly. I heard you cooked porridge for me yesterday, and I missed it. To make amends, I personally went to the kitchen this morning to prepare minced pork and mushroom porridge for you. He smiled as he approached. I glared at him. My entire body ached. He slipped an arm around my waist and lifted me onto the chair. I will feed you. And he kept his word. Damien Blackwood said he would remain by my side. And he did not break his promise. First, he took me to pay visits to the officials and their wives of Bafang, personally introducing me to the noble women there. It was both an acknowledgement of my status and a public declaration that he, Damien Blackwood, had a wife in the northern frontier. He personally took me to the training grounds and taught me how to ride and shoot. After that, he led me through the markets of the 3 prefectures. Anything my gaze lingered on for even a heartbeat, he would buy without hesitation. At night, when we leaned against each other beneath the canopy, Damien Blackwood would murmur to me in a low voice, "Your husband." From childhood, I was never favored like the other princes. Military merit and reward silver, I had to earn them with my own hands. Following me, you may suffer a little. But as long as you speak, as long as it is not plucking the stars or the moon from the heavens, I will find a way to bring it to you." Though his words were tender, something in my heart felt unsettled. Before leaving the capital, I had once told Julian Ravenscroft that the Yen prince possessed illustrious military achievements and was the first among the imperial princes to be granted a princely title. That was not false. On the surface, it sounded impeccable, but the truth was exactly as Damien had said: he was not favored. He had no powerful maternal clan to rely upon. Every inch of merit and position he possessed had been seized through blood and battle. Put kindly, he had been ennobled as a prince. Put bluntly, that title had severed his road to the throne. Damien did not remain by my side for long. Urgent military dispatches arrived from the northern Grand Camp, and he departed that very night. Thanks to his instruction, my horsemanship and archery improved by leaps and bounds. I could now spend entire days at the training grounds. For convenience, I dressed in riding attire, wore no hairpins nor ornaments, utterly unadorned, like a wild mare running free. When the 9th prince came to the residence, I was astride a horse in the arena. Hooves struck the ground, flinging up golden sand. The arrow I released veered slightly off course, skimming past his ear. His guards moved forward in outrage, but he lifted a hand to stop them. From atop my horse, I looked down at the man I had once believed to be my destined husband. Our eyes met. What remained between us was nothing but distance. The former demure young lady, who once did not dare take large steps, now rode freely across open ground. The astonishment in Julian Ravenscroft's eyes was only natural. I instructed Steward Graham to escort him to the main hall. Then I bathed and changed, cloaking myself once more in the bearing of a princess consort. He appeared somewhat restless. "Are you well here in the 3 prefectures?" "Your Highness has already seen it," I replied calmly. "Here, I am not restrained. All matters are decided by my own will. Though the residence of the Yen prince is small, it is vast in its freedom." He took a sip of tea. I heard Imperial Brother had returned to the 3 prefectures. I rushed here at once, yet still did not meet him. I have already dispatched guards to the northern Grand Camp to inform the prince. Your Highness may remain here and wait. I instructed Steward Graham to arrange everything properly for him. As a woman of the inner quarters, it was improper for me to show myself again, and so I did not see him a second time. Later, Steward Graham reported what he had learned. After I left for the northern frontier, Father's former subordinates repeatedly submitted memorials impeaching Julian Ravenscroft for currying favor and breaking his engagement with me, which greatly vexed Emperor Alaric. Though the annulment had been tacitly permitted by the emperor himself, what ruler would willingly admit his own fault? Having gone too far to turn back, he scolded the 9th prince harshly within the imperial study. As for Isabella Clarke, she was no understanding woman either. Seeing the 9th prince's fortunes decline and fearing that his bid for the throne might falter, she began quarreling with him repeatedly. Romantic entanglements should not have affected affairs of state, but Julian Ravenscroft was proud by nature. Resentment took root in his heart. In a fit of anger, he rode out to the 3 prefectures. Now the court buzzed with rumors that he had come here to apologize to me, to pacify the former subordinates of Marquis Edmund Ashford. Though I was far from the capital, I had somehow stirred a storm of gossip within it. Helpless, speechless, peace did not last long. Soon enough, Isabella Clarke, the proud daughter of the Prime Minister, followed him north. I steadfastly avoided both of them. It was said that after Isabella arrived, she chased after the 9th prince to quarrel. Enraged, She came to my courtyard several times demanding to see me, only to be stopped at the gate by Lydia. Not long after, rumors began spreading throughout the 3 prefectures that the princess consort of the Yen prince was arrogant and overbearing. I summoned Lydia and ordered her to recount everything she had heard. Steward Graham shot her a warning look. Nervous, she lowered her voice. At first, it was the wives of certain officials spreading it, saying that your highness once had an engagement with the 9th prince, that he did not wish to marry you, and so you, unwilling to relinquish your attachment to the imperial family, married far away to the northern frontier instead. And that while the prince is absent from the residence, you have been attempting to seduce the 9th prince into coming to the 3 prefectures. In short, the words are extremely unpleasant. Though a chill ran through me, I remained composed. What they say, do you believe it? Steward Graham and Lydia shook their heads vigorously. Your highness is educated, courteous, wise, and virtuous. We know exactly what kind of person you are. But it seems someone is deliberately fueling these rumors, causing them to spread further and further. I continued as before. When free, I rode and practiced archery at the training grounds. When tired, I stayed within my chambers reading and writing. The northern frontier was a land of sudden sandstorms. Yellow dust would rise without warning, swallowing the sky whole, until nothing at all could be seen. The entire 3 prefectures were swallowed by dust. In the central plains, calamities came in the form of droughts and floods. I had read of them in books. But the disaster of the northern frontier was the sandstorm. When it rose, the people could not step outside to earn a living. Water drawn from the wells turned thick and muddy, like stagnant marsh. In the alleys and streets, grievances filled the air. Refugees poured toward the 3 prefectures, only to be blocked outside the city gates. Wealthier families fled south to escape the calamity. Within the city, chaos reigned, like the end of days drawing near. Near midnight, I awoke. I ordered Steward Graham to arrange for the guard to secure the city. The temporary military camp that Damian Blackwood had established outside the walls was to be opened at once. At the same time, the gates were to be reinforced. Under no circumstances were the northern barbarians to seize the chaos as an opportunity to attack. Then I instructed Lydia to inform the maids and servants, open the grain stores and water reserves. Rice and stored water were to be distributed by portion. The remaining soldiers were to deliver supplies door to door, to prevent hunger from driving the people into unrest. While I was personally overseeing matters at the granary, Julian Ravenscroft appeared without warning. I wore a bamboo hat, pushing forward through curtains of yellow sand. Figures were little more than blurred silhouettes. Your Highness is noble. Please return indoors, I said coolly. If you are injured, we will be forced to divert attention to care for you. Without a word, he took a sack of rice from the storehouse, hoisted it onto his shoulder, and silently joined the line transporting provisions. In less than 2 days, the city of the 3 prefectures regained its order. Steward Graham came to me, beaming. The guards and common folk alike were praising me without end. I brushed the dust from my sleeves and merely smiled. Steward Graham, you know best. These methods were recorded by the prince himself. When I first entered the residence, you tucked those papers inside a book and gave it to me. I only happened to read them. It was not my quick thinking. It was entirely because the prince anticipates matters like a god and makes thorough arrangements. Moreover, the guards of the residence are skilled in emergency response. I merely embroidered flowers upon brocade. If the people must praise someone, they should praise the prince. Steward Graham raised his thumb toward me, unable to speak for a long moment. After he left, I noticed a white figure faintly visible in the courtyard as the yellow sand gradually dispersed. At first, I intended to pretend I had seen nothing and quietly close the door. But that figure spoke first. Nam Jai. Has it truly come to this between us? Is there nothing left to say? You are a prince. I am the princess consort of the Yen prince. By rights, your highness should address me as imperial sister-in-law. Between Julian Ravenscroft and me now, it was not merely that there was nothing to say. Even if there were words, they should not be spoken. I ask that your highness conduct yourself with propriety. You still resent me for those words I said? His voice was hoarse. They were spoken in drunkenness. Drunken words? Has your highness ever considered that since childhood I have lived under another's roof? Every word, every step had to be measured. I had to learn rites and etiquette even princesses were not required to master. I had to perform 10 times better than others to avoid reproach in the inner palace. I trod carefully every moment, because I knew my position. Without the Grand Empress Dowager Helena bestowing upon me the title of loyal descendant, how long could I have protected myself? And yet in your highness's mouth, I became someone who deliberately feigned virtue. Do you know how long a single sentence of yours made me the subject of ridicule among the nobles of the capital? Amid the lingering sand, silence stretched between us. His voice turned rough. Nam Jai. I am sorry. I let out a faint, derisive laugh. In this world, the 3 most useless words are precisely those. The annulment was not my will, he said urgently. It was arranged by my mother, Consort Margaret. She planned carefully for my future. Your highness possesses lofty ambitions. Spread your wings and soar. The words left unsaid then, speaking them now serves no purpose. I moved to close the door. Suddenly, the white figure lunged forward. Startled, I retreated. In the confusion, he seized my shoulders. Fortunately, I had learned martial skills for self-defense. With ease, I twisted his arm and stepped aside, pushing him back several paces. Julian Ravenscroft, are you mad? Step beyond this door, and you remain a prince. But do you intend to ruin me, condemn me to a lifetime of scorn, unable ever to lift my head? Nam Jai, his voice broke, I knew. Even if I chased you to the northern frontier, I could not win you back. In truth, 2 days after you left the capital, I rode out of the passes to pursue you. But I encountered bandits along the way and was injured. I had to recuperate, and thus was delayed. I could have caught up to you. Then I must thank fate, I replied coldly, for arranging that I meet a worthy husband instead of being ruined by the reckless conduct of the 9th prince. It is too late. If your highness does not leave my residence at once, do not blame me for summoning the guards. A worthy husband? Julian Ravenscroft sneered. My imperial brother is solitary by nature. On the battlefield he slaughters like cutting down grass. His mother was of low birth, never favored by Father Emperor. And you call him a worthy husband? Nam Jai, even if you wish to anger me, you should at least speak the truth. At the mention of Damien Blackwood, my gaze softened unconsciously. The Yen prince treats me with utmost care. His affection is deep. As for the matters between husband and wife, does your highness truly wish to hear the details? While he stood stunned, I ordered him expelled once more. Only then did the disturbance settle. Yet mere days after the sandstorm subsided, Isabella Clarke vanished without a trace, the daughter of the sitting prime minister disappearing within the 3 prefectures. This was no small matter. If blame were to fall, then even if Damien Blackwood knew nothing of it while stationed at the military camp, he would be the first to be questioned. Without hesitation, I took the prince's command token and deployed a unit to search throughout the city. At the same time, I sent another team beyond the gates to pursue any possible trail. Only after inquiring did we learn that in recent days Isabella Clarke had frequently visited Penglai Inn, a bustling gathering place for merchants traveling north and south. Realizing the gravity of the matter, Julian Ravenscroft immediately sealed the inn and ordered a thorough investigation. No trace of Isabella was found, but something else was uncovered. She had bribed several prominent merchants of Penglai Inn to spread rumors about my character, whispers that I was immoral and unchaste. Those traders who journeyed between north and south relished nothing more than scandalous gossip. Thus, tales of the princess consort of the Yen prince carrying on with the 9th prince within the residence, of Damien Blackwood being forced to wear a green hat, spread like wildfire. Even reaching the military camp, that day, I sat astride my horse outside Penglai Inn, waiting for news. Julian Ravenscroft stepped out, his face pale as death. The sunset sank into the yellow sand behind him. His eyes were rimmed red, half fury, half anguish. Seeing my expression cold, the faintest shadow of a smile lingering at my lips, he suddenly understood. Nam Jai. You knew all along, didn't you? I tightened my grip on the reins and looked at him steadily. The 3 prefectures are small. What can truly be hidden here? Why didn't you lose your temper? Why didn't you drag Isabella before me? He clenched his teeth, unable to continue. The daughters of the Ashford family had been raised with strict discipline since childhood, upright in conduct. When confronted with events, we were taught to be neither overly joyful nor overly sorrowful. That was our bearing. That was our cultivation. That day, you despised me, I said evenly. Now that you know how Isabella has humiliated me, are you grateful that I handled it calmly and preserved your dignity? You need not think that way. From beginning to end, the only dignity I care about is that of the Yen prince, my husband. You and Isabella arrived uninvited and caused me great trouble. I received you graciously to demonstrate the magnanimity of the Yen prince's residence. As for those rumors, I do not care. So long as the Yen prince believes me, nothing else can wound me. I turned my horse to leave. Julian spurred his own mount and followed. Nam Jai. I was wrong. His voice was as faint as drifting catkins, unable to withstand the erosion of wind and sand. I did not look back. The Yen prince endures unimaginable hardship guarding the northern frontier. He has no intention of contending for the throne, nor the strength to do so. If you come here, rumors will inevitably arise against him. Should anything happen to you, it would be no different than pushing him into eternal disgrace. At present, the most urgent matter is to find Isabella. Once she is found, I hope the 9th prince will consider the difficulties of others and depart from the northern frontier as soon as possible. Nam Jai. The more I looked at Julian Ravenscroft, the more I longed for Damien Blackwood. Before he could finish, I lashed my reins and galloped away. No sooner had I crossed the desert than we fell into an ambush. More than half the guards accompanying me were slain or wounded. From behind, a silver needle pierced the back of my neck. I did not even glimpse the enemy's face before darkness claimed me. When I awoke, I was already in the hands of the northern barbarians. The carriage rumbled relentlessly northward. Isabella Clarke and I, hair disheveled, sat facing one another inside. Suddenly she sprang up. flung aside the curtain, and shouted, "You've captured the princess consort of the Yen prince. Now release me." The men outside barked harsh words in a language we did not understand. It sounded like refusal. Isabella burst into tears, pleading desperately. "Didn't you promise that once you helped capture the princess consort, you would let me go? She is the Yen prince's woman. If you want leverage over him, taking me is useless." The barbarians ignored her. Frustration turned toward me. "This is all your fault. They meant to seize you alone." I shook my head. "You are wrong. You are the daughter of the Prime Minister and the fiancée of Julian Ravenscroft. I can threaten only the Yen Prince. But you can threaten the entire capital. You are truly foolish. I could have saved you. Yet you dragged me in as your shield." "Save me?" she cried. "You would rather I were dead. Because of me, you could not marry the 9th prince. You hate me to the marrow, don't you?" I smiled faintly. "Hate to the marrow?" "Not quite. There was resentment. But after coming to the 3 prefectures, I began to thank you for taking Julian Ravenscroft away, so that I might meet my true love." When I uttered the words "true love," I saw something in Isabella's eyes extinguish abruptly. She was a noble lady of high birth. Once, so was I. From childhood, she had been proud, bold enough to act freely before the emperor, to ride horses within the palace grounds, to do all the things I could never dare. At every moment she carried herself with arrogance, and now she shrank into the corner of the carriage, no longer daring to make a sound. Suddenly, I realized, perhaps from the very beginning, Isabella had only wished to compete with me. Perhaps what she sought to win was not Julian Ravenscroft himself, but the fact that he had once been betrothed to me. The northern barbarians drove us onward, day and night without pause. By the time Isabella Clark and I were dragged onto the Tau Prairie, thrown into the midst of a savage battlefield, we were both at the end of our strength, worn down by relentless travel, tormented by hunger and cold, several long swords pressed against my shoulders. Through smoke, flame, and blood-soaked earth, I saw Damian Blackwood in black armor standing at the head of his forces. The distance was too great for me to make out his features clearly. But the moment I appeared, the sharp tightening of his reins was unmistakable. Perhaps I had longed for him too deeply. The instant I saw him, my heart grew light. 2 silent tears slipped down my cheeks. The northern barbarians negotiated in broken Han speech. If he withdrew his army 1 mile, they would spare one of us. 2 miles, and they would spare us both. But if his forces advanced even a single step, my head would fall at once. After only a brief hesitation, Damian Blackwood rode forward alone. He stopped beneath the fortress the barbarians had erected and looked up at me. Isabella broke into tears first. "Your Highness, save me. If anything happens to me, my father will never forgive you." "Nam Jai," Damian said, his voice steady. "The northern frontier does not belong to me alone. Every brother in my army has family. If I withdraw for you, the blood of my fallen soldiers will have been shed in vain. If you live, you are Damian Blackwood's woman. If you die, you are Damian Blackwood's spirit. In this lifetime, I have only one wife, and that is you." Only from this closer distance did I see that his face was streaked with dust and blood. His eyes bore the iron resolve and coldness forged through countless battles between life and death. Yet when he spoke those words of parting, they were rimmed red, a rare sight. I smiled. Damian Blackwood, charged forward without concern. I am the only daughter of Marquis Edmund Ashford. How could I burden you over mere romantic attachment? The barbarians did not believe that bringing Isabella and me forward still could not threaten the invincible prince of the northern frontier. Blades pressed against my throat. Though I could not understand their language, I could see clearly. This battle would not be theirs to win. The Yen prince of the northern frontier was an undefeated legend. He drew his bow and released 2 arrows. Without the slightest deviation, they shot toward us and Isabella. Cornered, the barbarians roared in fury and swung their blades down. From my hair, I pulled 2 slender needles. At the very brink of death, I thrust them into the pressure points at their wrists. The 2 men cried out in pain. Only for a single instant. In that instant, Damien's arrows pierced straight through their foreheads. Seizing the opportunity, I dragged Isabella and leapt from the fortress. As we fell, countless arrows streaked past us, raining toward the barbarian camp. Damien galloped forward with perfect precision and caught me in his arms. Isabella, too, was caught by the guards beside him. From beginning to end, there was not a single wasted heartbeat between us. He shielded me within his embrace and wheeled his horse back into the surging ranks of his army. I clutched his collar tightly, afraid to let go. Perhaps sensing my fear, his hand gently covered the back of my head. His voice softened. "Nam Jai, you did very well." For some reason, at that single word of praise, the terror of narrowly escaping death transformed wholly into the fragile emotions of a woman. My tears burst forth. "Nam Jai. It was fortunate you were clever enough to understand my intention." Back in the camp, Damien carefully applied medicine to the wounds at my neck and wrist, blowing softly over them. His voice was filled with distress. "I knew your highness lived a life with blood upon your blade," I said quietly. "But only today did I truly see how perilous it is. I fear that in the days we are apart, I shall toss and turn, unable to sleep." As I spoke, my tears fell again. Damien laughed softly and drew me into his arms. "Do you wish to remain in the camp with me?" I nodded. "You are not afraid?" "I fear only waking in the middle of the night and not finding you. I fear you encountering danger while I am not by your side. More than that, I fear the countless uncertainties of this world, that I may not walk with you to white hair and old age." Damien let out a long breath and held me close. "Nam Jai. I once feared I was not the husband you desired. I feared that marrying into the northern frontier would make you regret." I lifted my head and looked straight into his bright eyes. Bitterness and grievance flooded my heart. For the first time, I called him by name. "Damien Blackwood, I understand that you are reserved, not skilled in expressing yourself. But how could you close your eyes while I mistook Julian Ravenscroft for the one who secretly cared for me? I misunderstood for so many years. You feared I would be bored in the northern frontier, so you had Steward Graham bring me books, letting me grow familiar with the customs of the 3 prefectures, slowly teaching me to love this place. Do you truly have no tongue? If nothing had changed, if I had smoothly married Julian Ravenscroft, would you have felt at peace in that distant northern land? On nights like these, beneath the bright moon and endless sands, imagining me as another man's wife, living unhappily, would you not have regretted it?" My tears fell in drops onto his robe. He grew flustered, his eyes filled with panic and pain, and in the end, he wept as well. He pressed the back of my neck and kissed me deeply. Our breaths mingled, tears blended between our lips, our tongues entwined inseparably. "I only wished for you to choose the one you loved," he murmured hoarsely. "I am an unloved prince, and a general by fate. I was born to spend this life upon the battlefield. How could I bear to let you suffer beside me? But I truly regretted it." When I heard you were keeping vigil at the Imperial Mausoleum for your grandmother, while Julian Ravenscroft grew close to the Prime Minister's daughter, I wanted to kill him thousands, tens of thousands, of times. I seized Xiao Wushuan by the collar and kissed him fiercely. In such a moment, he did not wish to hear that loathsome name mentioned from my lips. Months had passed since we were last together. The desire in his eyes was barely restrained now. He pressed me down onto the bed and took me again and again, like a wild horse on the boundless prey, fierce, unbridled, utterly beyond control. Even in such dire circumstances, Zhu Yan did not forget to display the temper of a pampered young lady. At dawn, the temporary camp was already in an uproar. After being tangled with Xiao Wushuan the entire night, I was exhausted. Through my haze of sleep, I heard him lower his voice coldly. This is a military camp. In the army, there is no chancellor. If you continue to make trouble, do not blame this prince for being merciless. In the middle of the night, Xiao Wushuan had kissed me awake from a dream. Zhu Yan is making a scene about returning to Ba Fan. Ninth brother is waiting there. I fear I must escort her personally, he said. Why doesn't the princess consort accompany this prince? It will spare me from dealing with her nuisance alone. I frowned. I loathed her to the core. In the end, I still set out with Xiao Wushuan back to Ba Fan. When we came, the road had been fraught with danger. Now, returning, it was leisurely and unhurried. The carriage rolled across grasslands and desert. The wind bent the tall grasses low, the moon hung bright, like a silver hook suspended above the horizon. Inside the carriage, Xiao Wushuan and I were like an ordinary married couple. Through the small window, we watched a slice of sky. When weary, we leaned against each other and slept. At times, he was far from well-behaved. Even on the road, he would deliberately entangle himself with me inside the carriage. The path was already uneven, his mischief made it rock all the more violently. Several times, we heard the guard driving outside cry out, "Heavens above!" But upon reaching Ba Fan, we were met not with peace, a great fire. It had reduced the entire Prince Yan residence to ashes. The familiar pavilions and towers of the past were now nothing but charred ruin. Xiao Wushuan stood expressionless. The flames leapt within his eyes as he stared. Standing frozen beside me were old Zhao and Yun Jiao, who had narrowly escaped disaster, the surviving palace guards. And the disheveled ninth prince. We relocated to the governor's residence. That night, Xiao Wushuan spoke with the ninth prince for a long time before finally returning to our chamber. My instincts told me something had happened in the capital. To ease my worries, he said only this: the court has changed. Chancellor Chu colluded with Prince Qi in rebellion. The Chu family has fallen. With the fall of the Chu family, the ninth prince's greatest support had collapsed. Not only had he lost the emperor's trust, other princes now sought to harm him. He could not return to the capital. Xiao Wushuan briefly recounted the bloody storms that had swept through the court. I listened in horror. It took a long while before I could steady myself. The ninth prince's sudden arrival at the northern frontier had already aroused my suspicions. Now they were confirmed. Anger was merely an excuse for his journey north. With his deep and calculating mind, he must have sensed danger and fled to Prince Yan's residence. Xiao Wushuan was upright and loyal, with absolutely no intention of contending for the throne. Precisely because of that, he had become the object every prince sought to win over. I worried so much that I could not sleep for days. Xiao Wushuan noticed my unease and repeatedly assured me he would only fulfill his duties. He would never involve himself in the struggle for imperial power. I had grown up in the palace since childhood. I had witnessed too many families rise overnight and vanish the next. I understood too clearly the helplessness of fate. As a subject of the throne, one's life is never entirely one's own, and during our days at the governor's residence, assassinations came without cease. The guards of the prince's household suffered heavy casualties. Even Xiao Wushuan was wounded while protecting the ninth prince. Standing outside the door, I clearly heard the ninth prince say, "Imperial brother. Since childhood I have been closest to you. Among all our brothers, only you truly cared for me. Now that your younger brother is in peril, you cannot remain idle. Father Emperor has grown old. Suspicion runs deep among us brothers. I trust only you, Imperial brother. If you are willing to write to Father Emperor and plead on my behalf, he will surely grant me some leniency." Through the door, I heard Xiao Wushuan reply weakly, "Writing the letter is not difficult. I only fear that Father Emperor, in his anger, may suspect even me upon receiving it. No matter what, Imperial brother, I beg you to help me." I stood in the shadowed corridor and watched as the ninth prince stepped out. When he saw me, there was unmistakable guilt in his eyes. I gave a cold smile. The ninth prince was selfish, fond of forcing others into corners. That had not changed in the slightest, Nan Jai. "I had no choice," he said, "no choice." I replied coolly. "So when you are cornered, you drag others into the water with you? Your elder brother was not born with your advantages. Everything he has today was earned with blood and sweat on the battlefield. The emperor trusts him because he has stayed far from the capital for years, guarding the frontier through endless hardship. And now you would use that very distance, use brotherly affection, as leverage to pull him into your struggle?" He looked at me helplessly. "Nan Jai, the way you speak to me now shows no mercy. I, too, have many things I cannot help. Even if you have 1,000 helpless reasons," I said coldly, "do you admit that coming to the northern frontier was part of your scheme? You wanted to rely on the Yen prince. Even if one day it ruined his reputation, you would not hesitate, would you?" "Serena Ashford, shut your mouth." Julian Ravenscroft snapped, "You humiliate me again and again." "On what grounds? If not for the former subordinates of your father constantly submitting memorials accusing me, how would I have fallen into this situation?" At last, Julian tore off his mask. The pitiful pretense vanished, and his true face was laid bare. I laughed. Looking at him with open pity, I said, "Why don't you admit it plainly? If you had not broken your engagement in order to cling to the Clark family, would everything have descended into this irreparable chaos? The Ashford family has served the nation with loyalty and righteousness for generations. His Highness Damien Blackwood has earned glorious merit on the battlefield. Only he is worthy of me. And you?" I let my gaze sweep over him. "You are not." The ninth prince was utterly provoked. He strode toward me, fury blazing in his eyes. I could not tell whether he meant to strike or curse. I retreated a step, and the door behind us opened. Damien gave a soft cough and beckoned me to his side. His arm lifted, whether by intention or instinct, shielding me from Julian. "Serena," he said mildly, "what are you and ninth brother arguing about?" Julian was quicker than I. He bowed. "Imperial brother, rumors in the capital say that the princess consort of Yen is arrogant and unruly, riding horses and practicing archery within the residence, utterly lacking the decorum and dignity befitting royalty. Just now, she not only spoke insolently to me, she even dared comment on state affairs. If she is not disciplined, I fear she will cause greater trouble in the future. Oh. Damien raised a brow and glanced at me, the faintest smile touching his lips. I did not hear her insult you at all, ninth brother. Serena is indeed mischievous, he added leisurely, but I have permitted it. My princess consort can manage the household and ride and shoot as she pleases. Whatever she wishes to do. This prince indulges her. If anyone outside dares wag their tongues, let them come speak to me directly. In the past, Julian would have dared to argue back. But now, pressed by circumstance, he could not afford to offend Damien. He swallowed his anger and left in resentment. I helped Damien back into the room. He looked me up and down as I busied myself tending to him. At last, he could not resist pulling me into his arms. Tell me, he murmured, why did you deliberately provoke ninth brother? I brushed his hand aside. Does your highness truly not understand? Damien chuckled. Were you forcing this prince to hear the real reason he came to the northern frontier? Or were you forcing this prince to hear that only I am worthy of you? I laughed as well. Both. And I wanted to provoke you into absolutely refusing to write to the emperor on his behalf. Mischievous, he said softly, biting lightly at my cheek before lowering his head to kiss me. I turned my face aside. Do you agree? He shifted his kiss to my cheek instead. His eyes gleamed with amusement. I agree. Julian did not dare remain long. Damien sent a troop to escort him and Isabella Clarke back to the capital. 3 or 4 months later, news of Emperor Alaric's death reached the frontier. So the earlier upheavals in the capital had not been groundless after all. Every storm had its cause. Looking out across the vast desert, I once again felt fate closing its grip around my throat. The funeral bells rang in the capital. The entire nation mourned. As a prince, Damien had to return to the capital to observe the rites. That night, I woke from a nightmare with a start. He was already seated beside the bed, drawing me gently into his arms. Serena, he said softly, I have told the messenger that you are with child and unfit for long travel. According to custom, a pregnant woman cannot appear at a funeral. This will spare you the burden of returning to the capital for mourning. Remain here at the governor's residence. Governor Richard Langley is my closest friend. He will see that you are well cared for. I struck his shoulder in frustration. How can you speak such nonsense about pregnancy? If in a few months my belly shows nothing, will I not become a laughingstock? Damien laughed. Then when I return from the capital, I shall endeavor a little harder. 10 days without leaving the room, how does that sound? You are utterly unserious. I laughed first, then I began to cry, leaning against his shoulder. I whispered, you forbid me to go because you know there is danger, don't you? Whenever imperial power changes hands, it stirs endless storms. I heard Father Emperor left no will. The messenger did not speak clearly. I only hope I am overthinking. Damien said nothing for a moment. Then he drew from his robes a jade pendant he always carried. Keep this, he said. Deputy General Chen is a brother who has shared life and death with me. If necessary, show him this pendant. He will understand and make arrangements. Do not refuse me. I am accustomed to preparing everything in advance. Only when matters are settled can I leave with peace of mind. Tears streamed down my face as I accepted the pendant. The next day, I wept openly as I saw him off. I often rode to the military camp to inquire after news. Each time, Deputy General Chen would run to me from afar. Princess consort, there is no word from the capital yet. Please remain at the governor's residence and wait in peace. The moment there is news, I will report it." Each time, I shook my head in disappointment and rode back alone, until one day, Deputy General Chen galloped straight into the governor's residence. He dismounted, rushed forward, and fell to his knees before me. "Princess Consort, His Highness has been imprisoned by the new emperor." I stood frozen. "Who is the new emperor?" "It is the former 5th prince. I heard that he has long been dissatisfied with the prince for taking in the 9th prince back then. He believes the prince was part of a faction supporting the 9th prince's bid for the throne." "And Julian Ravenscroft?" "He fares little better. He was tied to the Clark family. The Clark clan has been exterminated. The new emperor has thrown him into the imperial prison as well." So the winds had indeed been warning of an approaching storm. Deputy General Chen asked cautiously, "Princess Consort, what should we do now?" I tightened my grip on the jade pendant Damian Blackwood had left me and forced the words out between my teeth. "Prepare a horse. I am going to the capital. Your Highness is of noble birth. How can you endure such hardship? Allow me to lead troops ahead." Though the new emperor claims to resent the prince for aiding the 9th prince, in truth he fears him. The prince has guarded the frontier for many years, holds military power in his hands, and his achievements overshadow the sovereign. That is why they seek a pretext to suppress him. If we move the army, would that not confirm the new emperor's suspicions? If the princess consort goes alone to seek an audience, how could it be easy? Behind me stand all the sons of the Ashford family who shed blood and gave their lives for the late emperor, I said calmly. And the entire civil and military court once declared that the sole surviving bloodline of the Ashford house must never be wronged. I will ask only one question: in serving my sovereign, have I not been loyal? My father and elder brother never harbored a single thought of contending for imperial power. Then in what way have we failed the great realm? I rode for over a month, bearing the banner of Marquis Edmund Ashford, entering the imperial city alone. No one guided me. No one dared to stop me. The new emperor summoned me into the hall. He sat high upon the dragon throne, looking down at me with arrogant detachment. "Serena Ashford. In the past, you were cast aside by the 9th prince and sent far to the northern frontier to marry the Yen prince. In the palace, everyone laughed at your fate. They said you would never in your life find a husband as you wished. And now it seems you are truly devoted to the Yen prince. Are you not afraid that you may enter the imperial city alive, but never leave it alive?" I smiled, answering one thing while meaning another. The Yen prince is truly a fool. How did Serena Ashford ever end up marrying such a fool, so utterly loyal? What? The new emperor frowned. I have heard the late emperor left no edict. If I were the Yen prince, with troops in hand, loyal generals at my side, able to quell chaos and secure peace, the throne sitting empty. I too carry imperial blood. Why should I yield it to another? Impudent. The new emperor pointed at me. You are but a woman, yet your heart is so vicious. It seems imprisoning the Yen prince was indeed the correct decision. I calmly sat cross-legged upon the cold marble floor of the grand hall. Imprison him, then. It would be best if your majesty imprisoned me as well, so I may be reunited with that foolish husband of mine. I am the emperor. The power of life and death rests in my hands. Do you take me too lightly? As your majesty says, you are the son of heaven. We are all your subjects. How could we be your enemies? How could we dare to belittle you? Unless your majesty has always regarded the Yen prince and myself as external threats. The new emperor paused, then threw back his head and laughed. You truly are quick of tongue. No wonder both my brothers were captivated by you. Then choose, he said lightly. Between the Yen prince and the ninth prince. Choose one. The one you do not choose shall die. He smiled, without the slightest trace of nobility. I smiled as well. He stopped laughing. What are you laughing at? I laugh because your majesty's jest is amusing. Why not simply order the ninth prince's execution outright? Why go in circles? He is the one who coveted your throne. It has nothing to do with my foolish husband. The new emperor narrowed his eyes and tilted his head, studying the Ashford banner behind me. Your husband is not foolish. I chose to visit Julian Ravenscroft. Though it was July and the air above burned with heat, the imperial prison was bone-chillingly cold. The jailer took the token from my hand and sneered, Princess Consort of Yen, His Highness the Yen Prince is held in the pavilion of floating clouds. Have you mistaken your path? Or is it that you still cling to old affections? I cast him an impatient glance. Who are you to speak to me in such a tone? The Yen Prince and the ninth Prince are brothers to the Son of Heaven. A lowly creature like you dares to mock them? Perhaps my expression was too cold. The jailer shrank back, embarrassed, and lifted a lantern. This way. He led me to the farthest end of the prison before stopping. I found Julian in a corner cell. He wore coarse prison garments. His once glorious long hair hung disheveled, bound loosely with a strip of dull cloth. The splendid prince of former days was now gaunt and pale. I felt neither surprise nor pity. The jailer called out, Your Highness, see who has come. Whoever it is makes no difference to me, Julian muttered from the shadows. Unless it is Xiao Wuzhou himself. I covered my mouth and gave a light cough. The man leaning against the straw stiffened. He pushed aside his tangled hair and looked toward me. Recognition flared, first anger, then a bitter smile. Why have you come? Should you not be visiting your husband? I smiled faintly. Should I not come to see the one who orchestrated my husband's imprisonment? You came to mock me? Yes. To mock you for your foolishness. Julian lowered his head and let out a soft laugh. The victor becomes king, the defeated becomes a bandit. If I sat upon the throne today, then the fool would be Xiao Wuzhou. You are wrong, I said quietly. Even now, you still do not understand in what way you fall short of Xiao Wuzhou, and of Damian Blackwood. What use is it to say these things? Of course it is useless. I only came to tell you this, life is like a chessboard. One wrong move, and the entire game collapses. From my sleeve, I took out a small vial of poison and set it on the ground where Julian Ravenscroft could see it clearly. He looked at me and gave a bitter smile. I went to the pavilion of floating clouds in the capital to bring Damian Blackwood out. He had not seen sunlight for a long time. The moment he stepped beneath the open sky, he could barely keep his eyes open. I hurried forward to support his unsteady body, tears streaming uncontrollably down my face. That dog of an emperor, did he torture you? Damian leaned weakly against my shoulder, yet answered something entirely different. I heard you rode alone into the Hall of Radiant Governance, bearing the banner of Marquis Edmund Ashford. I searched his body frantically for wounds. I found none. Yet he looked so frail that my tears only fell harder. Why did he treat you like this? Had I known, you should have crushed them all, so he would never have become emperor. Damien straightened slightly, as though trying to stretch muscles stiff from long confinement, easing himself back into the posture he once carried so naturally. When a man reaches the summit, he will feel wild joy, madness, disappointment, confusion, emptiness. In the end, he can never return to being an ordinary man again. He dared not kill me, yet he fears me. In such a dilemma, advancing or retreating is equally difficult. It is inevitable he would make reckless choices. But am I not back now? And now, he added quietly, he fears you as well. Such a terrifying upheaval, yet he spoke of it as though it were nothing more than drifting clouds. I helped him onto the horse and let him lean against me to rest. The Emperor has agreed to let me take you back to the northern frontier. I promised him that our descendants will never leave the north. How good, he murmured. This was always the life meant for us. What does imperial power matter? What does the exalted Son of Heaven matter? We do not provoke trouble, but neither do we fear it. His chin rested lightly upon my shoulder, with such sincere conditions. What else did he ask of you? I hesitated. Damien immediately understood. After a long silence, he sighed. He is absurd, but not deserving of death. I whispered, rewards and punishments alike are decreed by the sovereign. He reached around my waist to take the reins and the whip from my hands. It seemed he had regained a measure of strength, for he urged the horse into a faster gallop. In this upheaval, Damien Blackwood was the only prince who emerged intact from the capital. The others were erased from the imperial records for various crimes and pretexts, such as the world, honor and disgrace before one's eyes, only to become emptiness in the end. From within my robes, I took out a mask and tossed it to him. I found this at the bottom of your trunk when I was packing to leave the northern frontier. He examined it for a moment, then laughed foolishly. So you discovered it. When I learned that the master who had secretly taught me self-defense beneath the peach tree in the Palace of Tranquil Blossoms, amid falling petals, was none other than him. My heart had not only ached with fear that I might never see him again, never save him, I had also wanted to scold him for 1,000 things. Damien wrapped his arms around me from behind as we rode. One hand held the reins, the other was far from honest, wandering lightly over me. Then scold me, he murmured softly. Scold me for a lifetime, if you wish. The end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to Love Stories with Lisa for more stories. Thank you so much.